who's the founder of byteXL, and we quickly begin with the masterclass. So, hope you're all excited for the insightful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro. Hi everyone. My name is Karun Tadepalli. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Karun Tadepalli. I'm a founder of byteXL. We are an edtech company working in higher education space. So we work with engineering colleges, right? Like we are working on transforming the engineering colleges as well as transform the students over there. Primarily, we work with the tier 2, tier 3 colleges. I'll talk more about that. Why did we choose like tier 2, tier 3 and then not tier 1 or the premium colleges? That's a business decision that we are going to talk about. Before that, just about me, little bit background. I lived in US for almost 2 decades. I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, went to JNTU Hyderabad for my engineering. And after that, like every typical South Indian story, dollar dreams. So went to US to do my master's over there. After my master's, again, just has to get into employment. That's how got into employment. Though my bachelor's, master's, everything was in electrical engineering, there was a need for finding a job, right? We are always on a clock, right? Like at 15, 10 should be done. After that, you should go to engineering, right? So I was part of that who was on a clock and all that. So got into IT. I think that's when my actual passion started. I realized that I'm cut out for really doing some kind of coding, programming, product building and all that stuff. And then I did have a great career. I've started with my career in telecommunications, then moved on to healthcare, built products in healthcare system. And then finally, my last stint before starting byteXL was with Accenture. I was a partner at Accenture, working in Northeast region of America, right? Financial services is what I was dealing with. So I did build a lot of products for commercial insurance and all that. So I'll just go a little bit detail into that when I say products and all that stuff, right? I'll take my last stint. So in the commercial insurance space, you don't realize, but there is so much of need for technology, including right now we are talking about Gen AI and everything, but 10 years ago itself, maybe that's one space, right? Where there was need for a lot of analytics, lot of automation and all that stuff. I was one of the pioneers where we built blockchain solutions, chatbots, right? What are all we seeing right now as part of the solutions? Even for example, so these commercial insurance was done for companies, right? And then they own cars and all that stuff. In order to monitor if the cars are being used for the right purpose and all that, there's a lot of technology that's been used to monitoring how many miles they are driving and all that stuff. So every small problem, why I'm talking about this one is every small problem is a huge challenge and they need to be solved. Every problem you solve will turn into revenue. That's the philosophy in US, right? It's being a capitalistic country. That's how everything is built. So I've solved a lot of problems during that stage. And while doing this problem solving, one thing happening was I've been constantly hiring people. And I've been hiring both in North America as well as in India. One thing I found a huge difference was in North America, all the freshers would call, right, who are just coming out of college and all that, they're making their careers by choice, right? You go to any university, I'm not talking about the Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Stanfords or that. Even if you go to maybe a university ranked at 100 or 105, you go and you try to hire a student and he is very clear what is he getting into, right? And he has been already trained for that. And then we are also hiring a lot in the APAC region, right? As I was talking about Accenture, Accenture has huge operations in India, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad has some, and then Philippines, right? So on and so forth. But the whole of APAC region, one thing was it's a career by chance. Because the hiring only happens based on your cognitive abilities, either your verbal communication skills, aptitude, or basic programming, right? So whether you know the syntax of certain code, right? Or you can compile a code, not a compile code. That was only, so that's when the thought started, why is it so different, right? Why are we seeing a different kind of hiring in a developed country, whereas like countries like India, right, like developing countries, and we are the workforce. Actually, we are building products for the world, but still the way hiring is not happening in the right way. And then there is a lot of luck playing a role. That's why I'm saying it's by chance, because so for example, you end up being, for some reason, right, like there are a lot of service-based companies, I don't want to take names, they may choose based on your last name, whether you will become a programmer, you are a tester or something, right? Like so it was all by choice, and you don't realize it's that, right, coming out of the college or something, we don't realize that I don't want to be a tester, because let's say in your first job you are going to make ₹1,00,000, right? Like that's what we are looking for, right? Like my first job, maybe I'm earning more than my dad ever did, and so on and so forth, but you are not really thinking about what would I be 3 years from today. And then suddenly 3 years into your journey, then you realize like someone who has been a programmer might have become a better leader in their position, and whereas sometimes being a tester, there are not many opportunities to grow, so on and so forth. I'm not just undermining testing or anything, there's a lot of automation in testing also, but that's a kind of graph. So that's when we thought about like how do we solve the problem. So me and my brother came up this idea of byteXL. What we are going to talk about today is also the same thing, bridging skill gap between academia to industry. Is there really a skill gap, right? Like that's the first question that we are going to answer. Or is it just a process that what is making it happen? So before getting into that, I'll just want to give an timeline of what byteXL, right, like where we are right now. So we are a 5-year-old startup now. So we started in 2020 Jan, pre-COVID, just before the COVID hit us. And then the idea was to help the engineering colleges, as I was talking about. And then we wanted to work with engineering colleges. And suddenly in the COVID, everything was like about, everyone's talking about online learning. There is one more thing. When we started, we are a pure SaaS company. It was a pure SaaS company thinking like Netflix of education. But within 6 months, we realized it's not going to work. We have to solve for the ecosystem. That's where we became a hybrid model. What does this hybrid model means? So the educator plays a huge role, right? Like, so educator. And then again, educator just doing it, it's already being done in colleges. Then what is the difference that you are adding? That's when the tech plays, right? Like the tech and the tech, just like Uber, right? Like Uber today, any of the e-commerce, everything, there is a human element and then there is a tech element. You order an app, right? Like Zomato, Swiggy, Zeptos, everything is through an app. But delivery is still human, so that it's a combination, that's a hybrid. Even in education, we realize that's what it's going to be. That's what our figuring it out in whole of 2021 was. So in 21, we had like around 15 colleges, and we had a steep growth in the next year. Again, thanks to COVID, we had a lot of tailwinds, and we had to go reach out to, so we were reached out by a lot of colleges, and we were skilling at almost 93 colleges without realizing. But there was this pivotal moment for us, like, are we in the right direction? Are we really skilling, right? Like, and then we realized maybe not, right? Like, again, we are in that same rat race, right? Like, get the students, train them for 6 months, get them into some placements. And luckily, you know what, without we doing anything, the placements were happening. It's because of, again, like the market frenzy, so much of hiring. Every company, right from Meta, Googles of the world, thought that this is how the world is going to, a digital world, right? Like, and then you might know Zoom was the biggest thing, right? Like maybe if you had a stock at that time for Zoom, you would have been a millionaire now, right? Like, so that's how it was. But again, right, like then we realized this is not what we want to do. We wanted to actually skill. And then we said, we want to become a transformation of colleges. That's what we are right now. So we start our skilling right from first year of their engineering students, wherever we partner with. And we skill them into like AML engineers, cyber security professionals, cloud computing, so on and so forth. So that's what we are doing. So right now, today, as of today, we are at 34 colleges. It's been a bootstrap company for 4 years. And last year we did raise money, we did our Series A. We got funded by Kalari Capital and Dell Foundation. We raised around like 6 million. That also, the whole focus was to build the technology. How do we build the technology? How do we train more teachers? How do we create a whole ecosystem, right? Like, I think I'm pretty much sure Bower is also going in that direction. So that's where we are. And as of today, we had like over 250,000 students who we have skilled. And then all of them are not first year students, obviously. So around like 1/4 of them will be into their third, fourth years and all that stuff. So we have around like 25,000 placements that we were able to provide. 1,500 of these students got into product-based companies like Meta's, Microsoft's of the world. So we are having a great journey. I'll talk more about while I explain the bridge gap. Okay, so question for you guys, right? Like, is there really a skill gap? Do you see like is it just a skill gap, or like what is that gap between the industry to the, you guys are all like professionals working professional? Okay. So being a working professional, right? Like you might have been into college and all that. Did you see a lot of difference?
Yes. Of course, there is a lot of, yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
See, because the syllabus. Yeah, my name is Karun Tadepalli.
Yeah.
So I work in the media industry. I was also into training. I was running a multimedia and IT skills institute way back, 10 years back in Hyderabad. But now I'm to a different startup. So the first point what you said, like, is there a gap between the academics and industry? Of course, there is a lot of gap because the syllabus what is designed by the EICT, the education department, and the people who deliver it, they might have done their PhDs or whatever, the lecturers or professors. So they really don't update themselves with the present requirement of the industry. And the syllabus also doesn't cover what is required, because the speed at which the technology is changing. Every year you get new tools, new languages, what the industry is expecting. So there has to be somebody like a company like byteXL or their Media who upgrade and upskill the students on a regular basis. So the challenge is, because India is such a large country, so they cannot implement the change in the syllabus maybe in 1 year or 2 years. Maybe they may be doing the effects, but there is also, the interest also has to be, because most of the colleges are owned by the government, like politicians and those kind of people.
But IITs are also government,
IITs,
you know that.
Yeah.
Right?
So the government, it does, whether the government really wants to match the international standards, as you said, if you look at the students in our years, they clearly know what they are pursuing and what they want to be. But here, their ultimate goal is to get a job, not the knowledge or not the, they want to contribute to the innovation or the entrepreneurship within themselves. It's only to crack a job in a premium company. So this is the gap, what is being there, and I don't think in very near future, for the next 10 years, all is going to change. So
do you think it's just the curriculum and the faculty is a challenge? So anyone like who has been like, maybe anyone else want to answer?
Adding to the point, I'm Pravalika.
Right.
The thing is, the student is also lacking the practical interest. Now the students actually, as the students is pursuing their engineering, the thing is they don't understand what is the practical knowledge. I have been into my postgrad in HR. We just have the classes. It has just been the classes. They don't understand, they don't move to any other, internship also, it would be just for a month. Then I don't think that exposure or they could get that knowledge to get into the course, for the job also. And the expectation for the student is to get a job, to get a good package and move. That's how it has been. And the other side, I have to tell you, the alumni of the college, the lecturers whoever teaches, it is like they just repeat the same thing. It's been the same thing for years and years without updating. Even if we get the current, I mean the advanced who have been the recent grads or post-grad PhDs, lecturers also, the teaching methodologies. I think the teaching methodologies are different. They have to change the teaching methodologies also.
I think great points, right? I think we both covered a lot of them. Curriculum, faculty, technology, practical learning and all that. I think that pretty much summarizes the situation, right? I will add one more factor to this one. The cost of tools also plays a huge role in the Indian education system, right? Like I said, huge population, right? Like, and then the enrollment rates are very high. And one more interesting thing for India, India is the only country maybe which has so much of emphasis on education. If you look at it in the rest of the world, whether it's a developed countries, developing countries, wherever it is, there is not so much of emphasis on education like we do. But the sad part is we only focus on the quantity, whether we have become a graduate, postgraduate, everything, but it is not on the quality of education. I think that's an important metric that we need to improve on, especially being in a technical space, right? Like the cost of tools is too high. So for example, in order to set up a advanced lab in an engineering college, it would cost crores of rupees, right? Like IITs were able to achieve that over a period of time, right? Like, and then even if you look at it, the top 7 IITs are differently compared to the new set of IITs that were added. Similarly, IIMs also, right? The ABCs of IIMs are in a different league to the other IIMs. And so again, once in a while you do see IIT Hyderabad or ISBs doing a phenomenal job, because that comes with a lot of investment, infrastructure, the whole ecosystem coming together, government, industry, and then the right, like the colleges and all that. So there should be some magic that should happen. But how do we take this to the scale, right? That's another big challenge. Again, if you make an ISB or a IIT Hyderabad, again, there are only 1,000 seats or like 1,500 seats in the whole campus, because that's where the only way this can be solved is through technology. A lot of automation, a lot of technology and all that. And I'll just give you an example, right? Like how it is being done. So for example, today, if you look at, I'll take example of US because I have been aware of that ecosystem over there. It's not just as I was talking about the Ivy League to the 100th ranked university. There are certain consistencies over there. One, the pedagogy is consistent across it. Maybe you don't get a professor who is a Nobel Prize winner teaching in a 100th rank college, but the teaching style, the pedagogy, what the material they use is pretty much the same. So for example, if you are in a business school, you are all doing the case studies of HBR, right? Like that's a common thing. If you go to ISB, that's what you are going to do. Right, but if you go to any of the schools which are doing MBA, like maybe in the Usman University and all that, they might be getting a marketing management book of Kotler and again the same set of questions, right? Like that's that's a huge difference. I don't think anyone in ISB would ever read a Kotler again. They'll be just reading the case studies, working on that. And then one more thing, they are taking away the competition. Whereas the rest of the colleges, there is competition. The way the competition is being taken up, when you do a project in a group, there are 5 people. All 5 of them are working towards a common goal. If you are to get a better grade, all 5 of you have to do a better job. Right? Like if one of them is doing a phenomenal job and the one guy is not contributing, but it is up to the team to pull him up to do it, right? Like you are not creating competition, you are creating the ecosystem. So those are the things. How do we do it at scale is what we need to think about. And I was talking about the price of, right? Like for example, cloud computing. Today, everyone want to understand what is AWS, like a cloud, or GCP, Azure and all that. If you look at those companies, they are doing phenomenally good by giving like if you are a student, you get a student account with $100 credit. And sometimes if you have a special request, they go up to $1,000. But the problem is if the student is not aware how to do it, what to do it, there's $100 will be burnt on a day because you don't know how to, right? Like turn on a server, right? Like you just leave it open, right? Like a lot of things can happen. So these are the kind of things, that's where guided learning is where it can only evolve over a period of time. And then one of the things what we have observed in the ecosystem that we are working, so actually all these companies have given center of excellence to many of the engineering colleges. Now today go to any engineering college, there will be a center of excellence, and you will see names like Google, right, like Amazon, right, like a Dell, and all these people putting up their name. Both of them have great interest in their mind, but the problem is the college doesn't have the faculty to teach that one, and corporates cannot send the people to train them, right? Like, so the bridge is not happening. And how it is solved again in US, you might be hearing whenever like the students go from here, did you get a RA and a TA? How are you going to get an RA and TA? Because corporates are sponsoring. But here, are corporate sponsoring? I don't know. The corporates are sponsoring a COE. Is it because of the volume? Maybe. But it can be, right? Like we talk about internships as an opportunity and all that stuff. But still, the internships are not available at scale. The only way this problem can be solved to being an entrepreneur, right? Like every student, right time when you are getting into any of the professional studies, whether you are getting into engineering, whether you are even a BCA, BBA, MBA or anything, by the time you get into professional engineering, we should all start think entrepreneur. One thing is like, it's a DNA, right? Like as we all grow up, right? Like we always think about, you need to study well, get a great rank, and then the next thing is get a good job, right? Like the whole idea is about finding a job. If everyone is looking for a job, who is going to create a job? So that's why the need for having an entrepreneurial mind is very important. And I paused at the point where I was talking about the cost of this cloud and everything, right? That's why students are also have to be little more creative. They need to be more focused. They need to find right coaches, guides in order to understand how do we optimize, right? Like how do I learn properly within the amount of credits that we are getting, right? Like those kind of things. And it can happen only if you start believing the educator ecosystem, right? Like, and then it's a responsibility of edtechs like a byteXL or even Bower or anyone to get the right faculty, right teacher and all that people. So it's a solution is a combination of everything. How do you bring the cost of technology down? How do you enhance the teacher? Right, and at the same time, how do you enhance the infrastructure? I'll take example of Tesla. Tesla as a car, if you look at it, cars have been there for a very long time, right? Like, but Tesla disrupted the whole ecosystem. It's the same car, but now that car drives by itself. It's an EV car, right? Like nobody thought that it could happen. When it happened at everything, right? They not only made it an EV, they also made it an autopilot. A car drives by itself, and I never imagined that to be a reality, right? Like the first time I was driving, I was feeling that you had that overwhelming feeling. So why is it possible? It's one thing. The hardware was always there. Software enhanced the hardware, right? Like that's what we need to think. Software is a lot cheaper than hardware today. If we talk about Gen AI, right, like you can see, NVIDIA took almost like 25 years. My friend here is like, he was part of NVIDIA. So it took like 25 years for NVIDIA to be where it is, right? Like nobody heard about this company and all that. But that has become a transformational thing for the whole Gen AI program. Right, like today OpenAI may be doing a lot of things. People will keep hearing OpenAI, but it is happening because of Gen AI. And one more interesting thing, you guys might be knowing about iPhone also, right? Like, do you think iPhone transformed the whole app system? Or is there anyone else played a bigger role on that one? So we are seeing iPhones, tablets, everything, right? Like now you called about app economy. There are $1 trillion companies that are getting created. Facebook is an app company. Airbnb, Oyo here, right? Like it's app. Ola is an app company. These are all $1 billion companies. Is it happened only because like someone like Steve Jobs has created iPhone and an iPad?
Apps also like WhatsApp and Instagram.
They're all outcomes, right? Like so what will come on Gen AI? Do you guys know? What are we going to build on Gen AI? Do you know? Yeah, so same thing, right? Like as I was talking about how NVIDIA has been an enabler for OpenAI. AWS was enabler for iPhone. A lot of people know about iPhone because it has that launch factor, because it's like a movie. You always remember the hero. You don't care about the music director, you don't care about the director, nothing, right? It's all about the hero of the movie. It's because he's the one, the user interface. Same thing with iPhone or iPads and all that. But behind the scenes, the computing power came through the cloud computing. And they both happened in year 2007. So which is not a coincidence, right? Like that's how things would happen. And when these two things were happening, companies like Facebook were existing. That's why they were able to build an app. So it's all the ecosystem coming together. So something like that should happen here. Even in EdTech space, why I'm talking about this is, these engineering colleges where they have this outdated infrastructure at Windows desktop, mostly pirated Windows in it, how are they going to learn any of the latest programming languages? That's where you need a tech. Tech plays a huge role. And how do we do that? I think that's where we need to get the product DNA. One, as I talked about, everyone has to be an entrepreneur. Next one is like, how do you develop a tech, right? Like in order to enhance this outdated infrastructure, right? Like once you start making updates to this one, I think everything starts becoming better. So after iPhone, actually you see there are a lot of like Androids came, right? Like Android has given market for even cheaper phones. Right, today you get a smartphone for 5,000 rupees, Redmi, Vivos, right, like, and all that stuff. So once you innovate, the cost will automatically come down. Right now, if you look at it, right, like even in education, EdTech is premium compared to, right, like just like we talked about ISBs, IIIT, Hyderabad, or even IITs, they're all at a premium, they come at a premium cost. And EdTechs are also offering at a premium price. It's because of the technology they have to build, R&D they have to build, and all that stuff. But it will all come down. That's where the technology in education is such an important thing. It should bring down the cost of education. End of the day, I won't say it will become low cost, like a low cost airline like Indigo or something, but it will be an affordable price. So we will come to an affordable price, but for that to happen, it is all about tech. So it's not just faculty, it's not just curriculum. Those things have to happen, no doubt about it. Or even like you are mentioning about, right, like the practical learning and all that. It will only happen if the technology is put in a right place with the existing infrastructure and initially able to do those kind of an R&D. And then last thing is profile building, right? Like as I was saying, like when you are profile building, even if it for a resume, right? Like it has to look like an entrepreneurial resume. You go find a job. By the time you go to a job, you should show them that I have already done so and so projects. It's not like I am coming to your job and start learning. If you look at it, most of the jobs today, that's what happens. You get a job, you get an offer letter, you go, you get trained, and we see the news saying that after 9 months, these people have been sent home because they didn't crack the exam that was conducted by them. So any student should not be in that position. They should be able to build a profile themselves. So we have a platform called Nimbus. I'm not going to talk in detail about that one, but this is what the technology power that has to be, right? Like how are we enabling our colleges is exactly this one. So we work with 34 colleges, and these are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. We have some colleges in Hyderabad and cities of near Pune, Bangalore and all that stuff. But even in a tier 3 college, the technology that we could do and we could enable the colleges that we were working for last 3 years, there are so many students who got placed into these product-based companies. It's because of we were able to build their profiles as an entrepreneur. So that's where the technology plays a huge role. Whether it's like a business school, like I was saying, everywhere, the emphasis should be on technology. And then comes the 4 important points over here. Once you have technology, it should be project-based learning. Right, like everything that you are, it can be a clone of everything what we are seeing, right? Like if you look at Flipkart was a clone of Amazon, right? Like but it's still a great business because it understood the ecosystem of India. Every country has their own ecosystem, their own culture, so it can be the same thing. Even in a college, that's what we need to do. We need to start thinking about it, take some example and start building that. That's a project based learning. And next one is a flip classroom. Do you guys know what flip classroom is? Any idea on that? Okay, so basically flip classroom is like is a technology, is not a technology, it's a kind of engagement, right? Like today, whatever we do it on a whiteboarding, right? Like you write it on a whiteboard, you explain it, you ask student to copy and all that stuff. And then came the next level of technology, which is just like I'm playing a PowerPoint, you'll have a PowerPoint, I keep talking about it. And finally, if you are in a school, I would have asked you to write notes on that one, right? Like but in a flip technology, that's not what we do. So I code, you also code along with me. So it's almost like we both are doing it at the same time. Or at least while I'm coding, everyone is able to see, right? Like understand. And then if not coding, right? Like because as a student, they will be not knowing everything. But answering this, like quizzing during the classroom and all that will become part of the flip classroom. And next one is the discussion-based pedagogy. I think the whole I talk, you listen, right? Like is not going to work anymore. So I think there is this concept called I do, you do, and we do, right? Like have you heard about that concept? So today it has to be the same thing, right? Like I do, you do, we do together. And that's the only way it's going to work, and that can only happen with technology, right? Like especially if you are getting into the world of Gen AI, I think that's how we need to work on. And then real-time product building with leveraging AI. Just like I asked you a question just now, what is that we are going to build on Gen AI? Is it a better search engine? Anyone want to answer? Do you know what we are going to build on Gen AI? Yeah.
Better computing power. Better computing power.
Little bit loud.
Better computing power.
Better computing power already came, right? Like that's why they are able to, now it's able to think, right? Maybe I'll just take a little deviation here. Do you guys know the difference between traditional AI to adaptive AI to Gen AI? Okay. So traditional AI is the typical robotics, right? Like in any car manufacturing or anything. You might be knowing, right? Like it's been there for a very long time. In a car manufacturing, the car doors, chassis, the car, right? Like unscrewing of the tools and everything. It's all been there for a very long time. It's a traditional. So anything that is a mundane work is repetition. That's done by the traditional AI. Adaptive AI. Adaptive AI is like basically just like I was saying, I do, we do kind of I do, you do, right? Like so basically the example of adaptive AI is Google. So Google was like having a ton of data, right? Like based on that, when you ask a question, right? Like it is giving an answer saying, okay, I need to go from this place to this place. Like Google Maps, everything was part of the adaptive AI. ChatGPT is generative AI because it started thinking. So if you go to a Google, okay, if anyone wants to try, just go to Google and ask any question, something like simple question, right? Like maybe even if you are finding a place, right? Like something like tell me about the IIIT Hyderabad, right? Like it will just do a random search. It just gets from the website and all that. But the moment you say who founded the IIIT Hyderabad, or right, like who is the initiator, where did the idea came from or something, when a who, what, why kind of a questions come, Google switches from regular search to Gen AI, Gemini comes, you can see that one also, right? Like during your search and all that. So that's the difference. In adaptive AI, it is just flashing out whatever it has. In generative AI, it's thinking. The next step is called AGI, right? Like, and then the last one, as of now, what they are saying is ASI, which is the super intelligence. AGI is artificial general intelligence that is on par with humans. Artificial super intelligence is beyond the capability of humans. So today already I think we are way close to AGI, because like there are so many tools that actually can write the code better than what humans can ever do?
I think this question is a bit off. Tesla is building this kind of robot, right? Tesla is building a robot.
Yeah.
What is it belongs to this kind of area you're speaking about?
Tesla is
Robot, right? So you said.
no, Tesla is a generative AI only.
They're working on some kind of robot, humanoid robot, advanced humanoid robot. So the GA you're speaking about is part of that stuff.
Yeah. General intelligence, right? Optimus, what they released. Yeah, Tesla Optimus is part of AGI. Yeah. So the interesting point, guys, like, does a robot really need legs? Yeah. Maybe do you have some chocolates? Yeah, whoever answers gets a chocolate now. Do you think legs are an important part of any robot if you are building?
No.
Then why do they do it?
Just to we feel like we are much more working with some kind of for us to feel comfortable working with it.
Yeah, just to create that feel of actually looking like a human kind of a thing. Actually, the toughest part of building any robot would be building legs, because that takes like 3 times the computational power of rest of the robot. Like if you have a robotic arm and all that, that's very easy to do it. Legs are useless because with legs there's nothing nobody can do other than maybe showing it in the Robo movie where Rajnikant can go faster. But otherwise, like, you can just have tires or something. So legs are the most useless part of actually any of the. But I don't know. Maybe Optimus also, why they did it, I have no idea on that. But yeah, I think that's part of an AGI. That's what we are. I think even Tesla as a car, it can come mostly. It's already part of Gen AI.
But is it possible like Tesla transforming into a transformers or something?
Might be, you never know. Elon Musk can do anything. But yeah, but one thing he has shown is right. Like I think it's very important how much role a technology plays, especially software, right? Like transforming an industry, the age-old industry like a car industry was a phenomenal move. And then we don't even have to talk about the SpaceX kind of a thing. But these are all the greatest innovations. I think EdTech is also, I think it does take little bit of time, because again, this is a very traditional institution. So it does take time to evolve over a period. But I'm sure all the EdTechs would be able to play a great role in order to bring that up. And also, I think one more interesting thing, this is just for you guys to know. Any regulated industry, with a change in minor of the regulation, will create $1 billion or $1 trillion economy. So education is one that place, and then I think Indian government is doing phenomenal job with NEP, where they are pushing the needle. I think they are also figuring out. I think one thing we should appreciate is, like, see, all of you, I don't know, I hope you are all working professional and then coming back to school. That's a phenomenal thing. But if there are any kids who are pushed into, say, you completed 12th grade, go into engineering, now engineering is done, go PG or whatever it is, I think that should stop. You should go to school only when you are ready. Like till 12th, yeah, you have to go, because right, like that's part of it. But after that, I think it should be like, once you are ready to be an engineer, then be an engineer. If you are ready to be a management guy, then go to MBA college. And then remember, going to MBA is not to get a job. Even like no one will promote you, right? Like if you are a director thinking that you're going to an MBA college will make you a vice president, it may happen in a short term, but that's not the goal. Go to an MBA college to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is the way to go, because that's where we will create a lot of employability, and that's the only thing you will learn in MBA, true MBA. Again, I'm not talking about where you read books and write all these assignments and all that stuff. Thank you. I'm more than happy to take any questions. Okay, maybe I'll start with a couple of questions. Just keep it engaged. Do you think, like, What would be the difference between going to a Harvard University versus any, let's say, any college in India, even IIT Madras or something? What would that Harvard would bring to someone that any of these institutions will not bring?
The group of students coming there, they have a different mindset. They're already prepared to do something, beyond the normal student, because they're already prepared. They already worked hard to reach to that level. Either if not Harvard, if you take even IITs also, the students who study in IIT and the students studying in a normal college, like for example, the Malareddy or whatever. So what the difference I think is the group of students who are reached there already and their thought process different. See, because the infrastructure could be more or less similar, but only the mindset of the students and the peers, the group of students, the kind of discussions what they have, that could be the difference.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's what discussion-based learning as well as, because I think they come with a different backgrounds and then they come with very high IQs also, different perspectives and all that. That makes it. If you go to those schools, there is no one will be talking and just giving a lecture. Like, enough of GAN in this world, right? Like you go to internet, there is enough GAN there. You open Instagram, there is someone giving a GAN. It's all about collaboration within each other. I think I think Muskan, you need to give a chocolate to him, and I think.
Do you want me to do it?
No, you can do it later.
One thing, Karun, I would like to ask, as one of my colleagues, the participant mentioned, the mindset of the students, again, the right context is, when you asked what's the difference between Harvard and, see, the students in engineering colleges, they take it so casually till they come to the third year when they are talking about campus interviews and those kind of things. Till the time they are busy with their freshers parties, late night parties and Instagrams and all. So only when it comes to, okay, next semester you're going to go for the campus. So that mindset, do you think if we start from the school level, like something what Over is doing, see, addressing this issue of career and building the entrepreneurship at the school level, do you think is a major game changer?
So it is, but I left it. I started at that point where I said we work only in tier 2, right? Like started at tier 2, tier 3. So just a basic 101 course, right? Like in entrepreneurship, you always do a POC where there is a market, right? Where there is a paying potential and all that. But actually we took the hard path. We said like every edtech in India, you go and check it out. They might have started at where the premium product would be. We might be the only one who started and said, we'll try it at tier 2, tier 3. Because the reason is, like, if it works in tier 2, tier 3, there is a potential it would work everywhere. So again, there might be a feeling, right? Like if it is a Nano, no one will buy a Toyota has proved it. You can have a Toyota as well as a Lexus. So it does work. It's not. So to your question, what we are trying to, it's a culture problem. Right, like why we are playing a role where we are playing a role, and we started first year was to create inquisitiveness, right? Like we are part of the core curriculum in their engineering, but what we start with is like really practical based approach, right? You might be doing the same C programming. I don't want you to learn the syntax of C language. We don't create our curriculum in such a way you come and then say include stdio.h, right? Like mug up that one, right? Like, and then you say this class and all that stuff. And no, that's not what we are going to do. Can you build something? Why do you have to learn C? The first thing when we went to college and asked, like, do you know why do you use a programming language? Nobody knows. Do you guys know really, like, why do you use programming language? What does programming language does? No, right? Like, so programming language does actually, if you see, like there will be a lot of limelight for cloud computing. There is a lot of limelight for mobile app, right? And all that, but nobody knows where this programming language, it's only two things. Take the input, put it in the database, and whatever you are asking, retrieve and give it. In between, there is something called middleware, which is doing the computation. So to your question, we need to start there and say, what you are doing, right? And then if the student is not interested in learning in C, he won't be interested because he knows his brother or sister, someone got a job in something that is not C. So he thinks learning C is useless. It is one of the history classes in your school, where, right, like you feel you mug up, complete the exam, get marks. But we need to tell them, no, C is the language that is used in Tesla in order to build a autopilot car. If you learn C, you can build an autopilot car. It won't register in your mind till you are at the end of the year. You need to repeat that every day. So what we do is we'll make our teacher keep on telling this one, that if you learn C properly, you will be able to build Tesla one day. So it's a very cultural change. It has to come from there. The biggest problem in this whole ecosystem is not any of these things, it's awareness. If you have awareness, everything will happen.
I think even the LMS what you guys have built, like for example, Nimbus or something, has to be so exciting and engaging so that they are enjoying learning the concepts and all. Otherwise, it will be just like, you know, any other.
So great point, right? I don't know, we are at a point whether it is engaging and exciting, but we are leveraging teachers. So basically the way we drive the content for the educator, not for the student. See, there are bell curve, right? Like we do a bell curve with the students. Top 20%, no matter what they do, phenomenal stuff. Bottom 20%, whatever you do, they will not do anything. So it's only the game of 60%. Can we move that needle or not? And who can move that needle? You have an anchor who is a teacher. So that's why, like Uber, right? If you look at it, Uber business is not taxi as a service. If, Uber business is building autonomous car or a flying car. That's what they are doing. This is just a cash cow. So we are giving money so that they do R&D, right? Like so same thing, right? Like we have a teacher. See, teacher is not going to go anywhere, right? Like first, let's remember that. But teacher should not be teaching the basics, right? Like a teacher should not be spending time teaching basics. With so much of content in online, right? Any language, right? Like whether you are into masters in physics, masters in chemistry, or even get to that level of PhD or research and everything, never get into points expect someone to teach basics. We should always be ready with that. Teacher will come where you don't understand. So for example, anyone heard about Woodzeric equation? It's a very complex equation. Go and Google it. It's very hard to understand. Teacher should come only there to explain that, right? Einstein's theory of relativity, there's no shortcut understanding. But E equal to mc square, we need to understand. Those are things. You cannot go and say, okay, teacher, teach me equal to mc square. The moment you are there, you are not allowing your creative brain to grow. So the teacher will be there, and we are betting that teacher will be there for next 5 years. And teacher will be there for next 10 years, but the shift is from today to next 5 years, the teacher should not be teaching medium to moderate level courses. 101, 201 level courses should not be taught by teacher. It is only advanced things that the teacher should come and teach.
As you mentioned earlier, your startup was founded in 2020. When the COVID outbreak started, what was the thing going on in your head? Like, were you like, yes, this is gonna fail, or what was going on?
There's a lot going on, man. So my daughter was born like before I started my company. So I had my kid in like 2019 November. We started the company in 2020 Jan. I quit my job. And then we had a business plan and all that, and March everything is shut. And we were not thinking about online as a thing, right? Like, so it was almost like actually it's a blessing in disguise. What has happened was like, then we started thinking about what to do, what can we do, right? Like how to reach to market. And we know that with all the other edtechs already in place, the customer acquisition cost is too high. And we were not ready to spend that kind of money. And we didn't raise money also at that point of time, right? Like so then we started partnering with APSSDC, Task here and all that. Actually, see, whenever you are in a crisis, that's when you get greatest of the ideas. if this didn't happen, I would have not partnered with APSSDC at Task, right? Like it's a low hanging fruit, but we never tried that one. The moment this happened, we didn't know where to go. And those two channels, all the engineering colleges were tied to them. And where we were given an opportunity to do faculty development programs. And all these faculty development programs were free. We are not getting paid and all that. Obviously, it was hurting. But yeah, we started doing, within a month's time, what has happened was like, where we were expecting 1,000 students to enroll, faculties were supposed to enroll. We had like 16,000 who were enrolling. And Zoom was a max license of 1,500. So we had to start streaming live in Facebook and YouTube. So we started doing those live streams and all that. But what happened is like right after the lockdown of phase 1, whatever the faculty development programs that we did gave traction to these colleges. They came to know about us and we got all the paid pilots starting then. And we didn't have to look back after that. 6 months was very tough, but this free faculty development programs and all that kind of gave us a lot of direction.
So do you feel like it gave a head start to what you are right now?
Definitely, right? Like we would have not been existing if not for that one. Because the whole idea was wrong. Where we started thinking like education as Netflix was the wrong idea. So the basis of our idea was wrong. This 6 months helped us understand the ecosystem and we built a product for the ecosystem now. Actually, like I being a techie, for me product is all about tech. I never realized product is, today if you ask me my definition of product, my product is teacher plus byteXL.app plus Nimbus. So teacher is part of the product. Earlier teacher, I was thinking only the app or like whatever the tech you see is the product. So the definition of product, everything changed. Anyone else, any questions? Cool, thank you for this opportunity, thanks.
Chocolates 2 in 1.
What's it?
Chocolates 2 in 1.
Yes. So what's your name, sorry?
Raj.
Raj. And
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.
It was a nice session,
Yes, thank
Karun. Yeah.
Maybe to
Which one?
the last question.
Abhinav, can we have him now?
Thank you.
Photo.
Thank you everyone for joining us.